is their Cordova creator of the Leicester equaliser. El Khanous, how much room does he have here? El Khanous going for goal, and he finds it as well. What a turnaround here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
4 minutes, Leicester have soaked up so much pressure. Patawi jinking feet to get beyond his man, and the header from Jamie Vardy makes it 2.
Wood should score. Wood Knockout. Yes! Anthony Knockout has done it.
Tielemans lining one up. What a goal! What a brilliant goal by Yuri Tielemans! And the Leicester City fans go absolutely potty. The ball in behind Damian Vardy. It's 11. It's heaven for Jamie Vardy. Hold the back page. Hold the front page. A Leicester player has smashed the record.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses. It's Sunday morning, which means it's time for Good Morning Foxes before a game this week, which is unusual. So, as you can see, we've got some great guests on the screen today. So let's go around and see how they all are. Kate, what's going on? How are you doing today?
Morning. Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. How are you doing?
All good, thank you. All good. I just said off air, obviously. We'll be feeling a lot better later today, I'm sure. So yeah, we'll look forward to
that's how it goes, right?
Yeah, you never know. You never know what could happen today. You never know. Graham, nice to have you back, mate. It's been a while. I know you've been on holiday and stuff like that. How are you doing?
All right. Well, it's great for me because this is 1:30 in the afternoon. This is, I'm not as woolly as I would have been at 9:30 this morning your time. And while you've got Kate there, happy Women's International Day. Kate. Yeah, you've shown as you know, I'm an old git, but we've gone a long way from not many women turning up at football and definitely not being allowed an opinion to the last time I was on this program, you saying the word fuck. So we really have moved on.
Yeah, we get a lot of fucks, a lot of swear words. Sorry from Kate. Sorry, I nearly said something weird then. We get a lot of swear words from Kate these days.
Steady on, lots. Come on.
Yeah. Rich, mate, nice to see you as well, mate. It's been a while with you as well. How you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Like you said, I'm probably better because we haven't played yet. So, we'll ask me again in a few hours.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people are feeling right now, mate. They're just waiting for the inevitable to happen later today. But, like I said at the start, you just never know. So let's get straight into it. I want to come to you first, Kate. I'll just ask you, how are you feeling going into this game? Because we're not having a good time at the moment. I think nearly everybody has kind of accepted relegation at this point. 6 points behind Wolves, Chelsea away, Enzo Maresca. I mean, what are you thinking?
Weirdly, I have the same feeling, and this may be completely unjustified, and there's no at all reason for it, but I feel the same as I did when I went down to Tottenham and I called into your show that morning. I think it was quite a nice day as well. I've just got a bit of deja vu I've woken up with this morning that, do you know what? I think we could get something. And I felt that way about the Spurs game. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's because, as we've said, against some of the bigger clubs, we seem to turn out our better performances. I don't know. I mean, Chelsea will have the bit between their teeth because they're chomping at top 4. That's about the only thing up for grabs this season now, and we're only just into March. So yeah, I'm feeling like we could get something today. I just want a goal. Is that too much to ask for?
Yeah, I think it is. No, I'm joking. I hear what you're saying. I get what you're saying about I mean, I remember when you called in before the Spurs game, and you had this little strange bit of optimism about you. But you never know. You never know. Graham, I know you're not the biggest fan of Mr. Enzo Maresca, but going into that game today, Chelsea versus Leicester, how are you feeling about it?
What about beating the snake that dumped us at the first opportunity he'd got? And then half the team don't want to play because they don't like his football, but nobody wants to criticise him because he's Enzo. I feel that we need to give them a good tonking today. I really hope our new manager changes formation. There's a novelty, 3-5-2, maybe 2 wing backs. and even maybe taking Vardy, moving him to I think you young people call it the false 10 position or whatever, and maybe sticking Daka or somebody in front of him so that he's not just looking over his shoulder as the ball bombs past. But I've been to Chelsea on many occasions, as you can imagine. I've even stood in the shed end with my mates from Chelsea standing around me, not wanting to make any involuntary movements or keep open my gob, which is pretty hard. But yeah, today's one of those days. And again, to Kate's point, we have always beaten the bigger teams. It's when we play the people we need to beat or the people the same as us. And it's not like just this team; it's every Leicester team. So yeah, let's just go as just Kate. Let's start with the goal and take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I know you mentioned the new manager. We will get to that because I know you've got some things to say about him. But Rich, same question to you, mate. Obviously, we know it's going to be a tough game. Chelsea aren't on the greatest of form, though. I mean, they've kind of had a similar thing to what we had last season under Enzo Maresca, where they've, after Christmas and the New Year, they've kind of faltered a little bit. But what are you thinking going into the game?
The thing I'm thinking is that I've just come off the back of watching the Wolves and Ipswich, and they look 10 times the team we are. And that's the issue that I've got. So I know we're asking specifically about the Chelsea game, but my thing is, I don't think it matters because we're never going to catch Wolves now. I've just had a look at Wolves' run. They've got 4 winnable games easily, as in 1 against us, 1 against Southampton, 1 against Ipswich. So they've got 3 easy ones there that they should be they should be winning, and then they've got some other ones that they, West Ham, etc., that they probably will do well in based on what I've seen. So I think it's at this point, I think it's a case of you've got to go out there and score some goals. There's been a lot of discussions of shoring up the back, scoring goals, doing whatever. Unfortunately, we can't do anything. So, let's get some goals and at least something, that we can all cheer about and get on board with. And who knows, that might ignite something. So I completely agree with what Kate said. Let's hope for a goal and then see what else comes.
Well, Kate, Rich said there about, he's watched Wolves and Ipswich, but in particularly Wolves, and he thinks, they're a better team. I mean, when I watch these teams, Kate, like Wolves and Ipswich, I don't necessarily think they're levels above us, but the effort is like they seem to just put in more fight than we do, and that obviously is worth, I don't know how many points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points come the end of the season, extra points. So that's my concern, Kate, is that these other teams do appear to be fighting, and more times than not, we don't.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of games in particular, the West Ham game was just, I don't think anybody really got into a sweat, did they, in the team? It was really disappointing. And yeah, desire and fight definitely came into that conversation. I think we're always hypercritical of our own team, though, because we watch them all the time. I've got a good mate who's a Wolves fan, and he said without Cunha, they're absolutely dreadful, and he's dreading that potential ban coming up. So we're all hypercritical of our own team. Ipswich, I agree. I feel like they've got more tempo, more dynamism about them, but they're on the same points as us. So it doesn't really matter in that sense. Wolves are almost clear, aren't they? It's almost writing on the wall time. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I feel like we are hypercritical because we care so much about our club, and the desire and fight is what everybody wants to see today, because there's not really a lot of grumbling in the fan base if we lose, but we've tried. But if we lose and we haven't tried and we've not even bothered against some direct peers, which has been the problem, like your Evertons, your West Hams, your Wolves, that's when people start to get really frustrated because nothing seems to be changing on that front. If you don't think it's working or the players aren't bought into the philosophy, then you need to do something different because it's not working with that personnel. So I don't feel there's a lot of harmony in the dressing room at the minute, and they're human, aren't they? It impacts them mentally, but we want to see more. We want to see better.
Yeah, I mean, Graham, what have you made to the fight in the squad recently? Because I know Southampton lost again yesterday, but I see them go 1-0 up against Liverpool, and I know we've done it in the past. We've done it earlier in the season, but I could not see that happening. I could not see today us turning up at Stamford Bridge and scoring an early goal to go 1-0. I just can't see it because I don't think there's enough fight.
it's interesting because I think it's a two-way street. I think the fans have a little bit to answer for on this one as well. Leaving at half-time, no matter how badly we're playing, it's not really we go to watch football. I mean, I've watched football all my life, and second half Leicester might do something. We say about the players not fight, but in the Everton game, when Ayew went down to take a corner, he got dog's abuse from his own fans. So we expect him then to put a really good ball in the box. And yeah, okay, he's taking it out. He's having it taken out for the rest of the team performance. Last couple of games, we haven't turned up. I don't know what's going on I just think they've had the confidence rinsed out of them. And the confidence means, a goalkeeper going another 6 inches to make a stay. Or how many of our midfield get the ball now and are starting to turn backwards because they don't want to be the one that gives the ball away when the crowd get on their back. So the good news is we're away. The good news is the fans should be on, supporting the team, unless they're calling the chairman a slag, as they did at another football match. I think as long as they can keep the toxic half away, get to half-time and then go again. But yeah, I don't, like you, sorry to just finish it off. Yes, based on the last two performances, if Chelsea score, we're doomed.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Rich, we've discussed, in the past on the channel and a little bit already today, but about, I think Graham said it, a change in formation and whatever. I mean, I think at this point, because it's kind of the last hope, isn't it, Rich? That maybe a change of shape. I mean, we think back to the Great Escape season. That came from. I was listening to. I don't know if you guys saw it, the Schmeichel interview on the Overlap the other day, and he said it's like trying all the wrong keys in the door and nothing works, and then suddenly you find the right one and it unlocks, and that's how he described it. And I feel like that is our last hope, Rich, that the manager changes something and it starts clicking. Because if it doesn't, if we don't change anything, we're just going to be walking straight to the Championship.
No, exactly. I think I just want to pick up on what Graham said there, though, because I think it's a perfect point to say that at what point so how much of this is Ruud going, I'm going to keep doing this because I think it's going to work. And when all the fans are booing, that's almost strengthening his resolve. It's like I think I've used this analogy in the past. If you tell a friend to leave their partner because you think that all they do is defend him, because you're not attacking their partner, you're attacking their decision to be with the partner. So your natural human instinct kicks in and you go, oh no, I want it. So how much of it, the fans all booing his decisions and booing Ayew, which I agree with is horrendous. Like, just get over yourself. If you're booing your own players who are, there's so much conversation about not putting effort in. They're putting effort in. The levels just aren't there, but they're still they are trying. There's only so much that one person can do. But anyway, further to Graham's point is, if Ruud's getting booed for these decisions, etc., how much of it is he's just going to, is he just going to go, well, I'm sticking with this because I think it's going to work? And then let's say he does change and then it doesn't work. So the fans boo again. So then how much power do the fans have? Why don't the fans just pick the team then? Let's do a consensus. Let's get rid of a manager. Let's just have all the fans and we'll do a vote of who plays where. And there you go. And then we'll still get hammered. And then it'll check. This is the thing that frustrates me, is that the wishy-washy and just to and fro, all over the place with, who we're blaming, when we're blaming, what's going wrong. I agree there needs to be a change right now. And so I appreciate that I'm just about to contradict myself here. But I think that there needs to be a change because what we're doing isn't working. And he's tried it consistently now with slight changes. There has been differences, but I know Ricardo's not going to be fit today. Get the big man up top. At least he can't do any damage at the back. I think we need to make some changes. Like I say, Ricky's back, but he's not fit for today, so we're not going to see him for probably a week or two at least. But let's get some pace. Let's just get some pace in there and see what happens. I'm not the biggest fan of just throwing players on. Even if they're for the likes of Mavridi's been called for, and I've toed and froed with it, to be honest. But at this point, I'm like, well, let's give him a try because everything else isn't working. So let's have a go and see. I'd like to see some youth in there. Just go for it. there's no pressure on them. No one's going to get on their backs. Well, our fan base might. But anyway, we'll see.
Could I? I'm not interrupting.
Go on, yeah.
No, don't want to do that. But just before you move on to the next point, is there are a lot of things, responsibility for what's going on, and I do think that the fans do need to take a bit of responsibility. And maybe I'm going to say this: maybe people doing the pod.
We've lost you, Graham.
I'm back. No,
he's back. He's back.
Don't touch anything. That was the thing. I had a message come up saying I'm in a meeting, expected in a meeting. Well, I'd much rather talk to you.
This is a very important meeting, Graham. Come on.
Well, yeah, I think no, you've got this. It's okay. It's much more fun this. But as I say, there has been a pressure. The pressure built on Cooper. The pressure is built on the players. I know nobody likes him, and I remember your program you did recently, the Rude versus Cooper show, and basically the whole show was slagging off Cooper. It's that we were struggling to get points. We were lucky. We did all this sort of thing, but there was no identity or no team. But we were getting somewhere. Then the fans go, well, we don't like that, or we don't want the board. We're going to get top to leave £500 million worth of money and go off, and we'll get somebody else, because there's bound to be somebody around the chip shop that's got 5 bob that's going to buy the team, and then we'll get rid of Rudkin, and then we'll get rid of Susan Wellens, and then everything's going to be fine. It's a pervasive poison that's going through the club. I don't get to go to many games. Through work commitments, but again, I've had people that have been for years taking my tickets and going and taking their grandchildren. They don't want to take their grandchildren. They've stopped at this moment in time saying, I don't want my grandchildren hearing what's going on in the ground. And it's not like we're playing in the old thing, the Division 1. We're struggling in the Premier League. Nobody in their right mind, even my lovely mate Manny, who thought we were going to finish 12, knew that in this season we were going to do nothing but finish 17th at best. So forget all the bullshit, forget the yellow shirts, forget all this. For the last half of this season, let's get behind the team. Let's do the end up. I'm sorry, one more point, because I know I'm rabbiting on, but you're saying about managers changing things, and good old mate Casper making that issue that we were trying the wrong keys in the wrong hole or whatever. No, Pearson wouldn't play Albrighton because his wife had slagged him off on Twitter. Half
Is
the
that
season,
true?
Yes. Oh, there's a couple of Pearson things that he did, which shows manager power. But no, basically Albrighton, the day that Pearson nearly got sacked. Top had sacked him in the morning, and his dad reinstated him in the evening. In between that time, his wife had sent a tweet saying maybe Albrighton might get a game now.
Oh yes,
and funny enough, he didn't.
There was also a change of shape to get Albrighton in, right? I mean, we switched to the wing back.
But managers make decisions based on many things, and it would not be on the wit of man for Pearson, knowing Pearson, and I've met him a few times, knowing that managers are stubborn, and maybe sometimes something as stupid as that. Anyway, I've spoken enough. Next.
Well, no. Look, you make some real. I mean, I'll ask you. Obviously, it's one thing about what Graham just said about the Albrighton situation. I mean, who is the Albrighton then, Kate, of this team? Who should be playing that isn't getting a minute? Should it be Mavididi? Me and you aren't the biggest fans of Mavididi. There's a lot of people that aren't the biggest fans of Mavididi. But at some point, as Rich said, you've got to do it, haven't you? Because nothing else is working.
I think that ship sailed because the Albrighton of the team was Ricardo Pereira, which Steve Cooper refused to play.
Yeah.
That was that moment of the season for us. That was a bit, I feel that could have been potentially the sliding doors moment, if you like. But now we haven't, I don't think we've got one, but I do think we've got I think we're way better in attack than we are in defence, but we don't play like that. We don't set up like that. We set up to try and be defensive and cautious, and we are absolutely terrible. Like I keep saying it, but there's no point shutting up shop after you've been robbed. There's just no flipping point. That always feels like what we do. We're not good at keeping people out and closing out matches or keeping even a 0-0. We're just not good enough at it. But we are better at scoring goals, as has been proven earlier on in the season when we scored in all but one, I think, of Steve Cooper's tenure. So you need to see what the personnel you've got, and in the youth as well. I agree with what Rich was saying there. Like, look at what's going on in the youth team as well, because there seems some really exciting prospects, which I don't want us to lose out that critical moment where we can utilize them a little bit. So that's for me what it's more about now, is playing to your actual strengths, which for me is going forward. And if that incorporates Mavadini because you want to play really quick counter-attacking football like we did against West Ham, which worked when we were at home, then that's what I'd rather us do, because defensively it's just not working. And I think that's a big personnel issue which can't be sorted till the summer. So you just need to accept that, move on, and try and utilize what you've got, like your Buonanottes, your Bilals, mix it up a bit with the wingers, bring McAteer back into the team a bit, or at least in the peripheral. Like, I don't know where he's gone. So that's what I think we need to be doing more of now, because we've got a lot of pace. We've got a lot of pace when you think about some of it. Like JJ, I think, is the second fastest in the team. So, but you don't see that, do you? You don't see him doing a proper wing-back situation, bombing on all the time, which he can really do, which Ricky P used to do a lot as well. So that's what's frustrating me about Rude, is I don't think he's utilising properly what he's got. And to me, that's what an elite manager is supposed to do, not just try his amazing method, which if it doesn't work, well, I'll just try the same again next week. And he's not the only one guilty of that. We had that issue with Brendan. We've had that issue with Enzo. You could argue Pep's got it to a degree, which is costing him this year. Like, you've got to be more dynamic and more versatile and be able to think on the spot. And I don't think a lot of these managers, their philosophies are so deep rooted that they are unable to do that.
Right, we're about to head into a Ruud van Nistelrooy slagfest right now, so everybody prepare yourselves, I think. Rich, Graham, I'm going to come to you in a second because I know that you have some views on this, but before I come to you, Rich, talk to me, mate. I mean, Ruud van Nistelrooy, when he first came to the club, was asked about, what's your philosophy? What's your managerial philosophy? Blah,
it's
blah,
not
blah.
romantic, though.
Well, he said, he doesn't have a philosophy. He's not stubborn, and he will change something if it doesn't work. I mean, have you seen much of that, Rich, so far?
In his defence, he is making changes, but they're small changes. They're very small changes, which I think it's difficult for us as a fan base to see. As you say, the one with the Great Escape, it went, we went from, let's say, we went from a 4-4-2 to a 3, to a 5 at the back. There was a huge change. You go, oh, that's an easy change for everyone to see. And Neil pointed out that he's making small changes on, a few games to try and, test things out and see if he can make it work. And I get that. And to be honest with you, let's say he tries something slightly different today that barely anyone really notices. I don't know what, but let's say he tries something slightly different. I don't know, maybe drops Bilal back into, the sort of Harry Winks role. So alongside Ndidi, and then puts, Buonanotte ahead of him in the 10. And all of a sudden, it works. The formation's exactly the same. Everyone's told to do. You've still got Bobby De Cordova-Reid, and you've still got Ayew, and you've still got all these other players, but they've just made that slight change, and it starts working. Everyone's going to go, oh, amazing. Ruud's the king. If he wins the next 6 out of, you know what I mean? Like, he's good, but realistically, it's impossible because, I think Kate mentioned it earlier, a sliding doors moment. Like, it's unfortunately every single game's a sliding doors moment because you just don't know what's going to happen. So he could put something slightly different today, and it could be incredible. He could also make wholesale changes and go, right, none of you have been good enough, so we're changing everything. I've got Daka up top. We've got Bilal and we've got whatever. We're making all these changes, and we're going to change the formation. We're going 3 at the back, and we're going for pace in every position. So that's what I'm going for, and I just want you to break and just run. Every single person, bomb up. And that might work, but we also might get trounced, 7-0. So I think the problem is there's several problems, unfortunately, and I think that everyone could try and but the thing is, I think the issues that we're having in this, the downgrade of a club that we've had, is not because of one thing. It's because of everything, and it's holistically everything being taken into account. It is, Seagrave will play a part. Kasper Schmeichel leaving will play a part. There are all these things that you could go and say, well, what, the fact that Wes Morgan and is at Forest now rather than in our coaching team, and there's all these factors that you could say that you go, well, actually, they're all factoring in, and now Ruud's paying the price. Is could be the the nice way of looking at it for Ruud, but I also go he's not good enough. So that's my personal opinion on it.
Well, Graham, look, you have this magical ability of pissing lots of people off. So good, fair play to you, mate. You have staunchly defended, Cooper, Rudkin, the board, certain players. But I hear that you are not, you're not defending them over the appointment of Ruud van Nistelrooy. I mean, what have you got to say about that?
Well, absolutely. Well, hang on. I mean, firstly, great point to make about Morgan and Albrighton. But really, guys, it's only the Leicester naivety that thinks that we're their home club. Whether it's Morgan, that's Morgan and Albrighton. They were Aston Villa and Forest. So, and I'm pleased that you're going to make 80 more. I don't want Casper back anywhere near the club, given my position on him. I think the issue is that the appointment of Ruud van Nistelrooy was a knee-jerk reaction. And maybe not a knee-jerk reaction by Rudkin. Maybe it's a top reaction. I hate to criticise him because I think he's done a brilliant job and he's done it under very difficult circumstances. I heard the Nepo kid thing being bandied around, which I found very disrespected for somebody who's got the chairman's dog because his dad died in a flaming helicopter crash and had to inherit one of the biggest businesses that going and try and keep his act together whilst mourning his father. I lost my father the same age as Top is. I had to inherit his businesses. I had to take over his house. Oh, and by the way, I had a 4-day-old daughter. So anybody coming out with that kind of thing and to criticise people, I find is very disrespectful. But it has previous, the Pearson sacking, which nearly cost Ian Stringer his job. He sacked him in the morning, Dad reappointed him. So he does have some history in knee-jerk reaction. And I think that what was going on is very reminiscent to when it was the last Rudkin out. And I had to see my chairman with a bodyguard in the director's box. I mean, how ridiculous is that? But I think he felt with the fan pressure, with the internal pressure, with everything's going on, he had to make a decision. 1, to sack Cooper. And 2, we've had 4 good games against Man United, but he's had 4 good games with Man United, 2 of which are beating us. We brought a complete novice into it. Somebody that doesn't know management, doesn't know the league, doesn't know what's required to keep us up here, speaks beautifully and is a bit more of an eye candy person than Cooper could ever be. But has generally shown in game, apart from a couple of games, like the Newcastle game was a joke. We are now playing. Maybe he's cut out the mistakes, but there is nothing to show me one positive thing that this gentleman has done since he's come here. And whoever brought him in and said this is the solution for us this season has got it very wrong, in my opinion.
Well, Graham, what would you say to the people that say, because, of course we don't know everything and we'll never know, but a lot of people are assuming that he may have been promised more players in the January transfer window. What would you say to people that say that he wasn't given, because Cooper was backed in the summer. I mean, he spent money, as has every manager, by the way, in their first summer window. Rodgers, Enzo, Cooper. But Ruud didn't have that. Ruud, had a £3 million fullback, which I'm sure he's happy with, but he had a £3 million fullback, and that's all he got.
Well, there's 2 points to that one, and that what actually tells me about what we're doing today and there's so much criticism of the club and the board. Power to Susan Wellens in actually changing the accounting date. So we now have managed to write off at least one of the 3 years of the PRS, so we might be able to bring in the players going forward, and that might be beneficial. But secondly, we seem to get at the board for the injustice of the situation that we've been put in. Firstly, by the ELF, so we knock them back, and twice by the Premier League. How can Chelsea spend 600 million this summer on signings, and we can only spend 50? Where is the fairness in that? Now, Ruud van Nistelrooy would have been promised, this is the amount of money we've got. These are the players we're going to try and bring in. And this is what we're going to try and do. January window, apart from signings of who's, is panic buy time. You know, you buy a player, they've only got 6 months to settle in to become good enough to be a first team player in whichever league you're playing in. They might win, they might not. So I can say, yes, you've been lied to, or you've not been lied to, or whatever it is. This is the circumstance. And in some ways, it kind of closes down the situation is, mate, you've got to make do with what we've got. You've got to find it. And just one last little thing. We talk about wanting to get the youngsters in. Can you imagine the youngsters playing in a team where the crowd are booing them? Do you think that's going to do them any good? And if you watch under 21 football, which I try to do now and again, nobody puts a tackle in. It is not the same. It was like when we used to have a reserve team in black and white world days. You bring a reserve player into the first team. It's a completely different scenario. So the club have to, like everybody, I think there's a lot of people that have to take responsibility. Was Ruud the only person probably in the game at the moment? He might have been. It was like with Cooper. There is this criticism that, the club's lost its way because after Enzo, they went for Cooper. Well, the club did a brilliant signing with Enzo. Nobody would criticize that. Young, dynamic guy that can do it, makes it happen. And then we get shafted at the church because he's gone off with the bridesmaids or whatever, and we're now we are now. Then the club has to look in a pot. Now they didn't identify Cooper as their number one target. There was probably a couple of others, but the people they were after showed ambition. They were after Potter. They were after Moyes, and both of those didn't turn up. So you have to appoint a manager. I think the club get a lot of stick. Some of it right, some of it's wrong, but we are where we are, and somehow or other, I would like to see us, like Kate says, and let's score a goal. Let's see what happened. It was always going to be tough. Now it's nigh on impossible, but let's play better. Let's win a few games. Let's get some points. Let's give the crowd something to get back.
Yeah, Rich, I'm going to come to you in just a sec, mate. Kate, first of all, though, what have you got to say? I mean, obviously, about what Graham's just said, anything in particular? I mean, because we joke, Kate, that Ruud's only got the job because he beat us twice. We joke about that type of thing, but looking back on it now, I mean, it does feel slightly strange, doesn't it? That because we were linked with Potter, we were linked with Moyes, both of them managers have now gone to a club that are going to stay up in the Premier League, whereas now Leicester are quite, it looks like going down. So you could say they made the right decisions, but were the board just, or top in particular, was it just a reaction to, an emotional reaction?
Potentially, Ruud could have been on the shortlist in the summer and just not wanted to come at the time. So that's when we had to look down the pecking order. You know what I mean? There could have been that because he might have been hanging out for a different kind of job, knowing that Man United were going to be in a bit of limbo. I'm sure the gossip train amongst managers and in that inner circle is probably rife compared with even the fan gossip, to be honest. Potter turned us down twice, and I've said before, I wouldn't ask a guy out for a date 3 times. So he left us hanging. He didn't pick up his phone. That's one of those. And I don't think Moyes was ever on the cards. I think Moyes has only been seduced back to Everton because that's where his heart is. I don't think Moyes was ever on the cards. If you've seen what he said when he collected his OBE, he said he wanted an easy job and he didn't think he had another relegation battle in him, but he didn't know the Everton role was going to come up. So for me, Ruud was potentially a bit of an emotional choice, a bit of we wanted him in the summer and now we've got a reason to approach him again and it looks like we can make the Ducks line up in a row. That could have been it as well. And similarly, when you think about the actual appointment of Ruud and his experience that he had, is that different to Enzo when we appointed Enzo? Is it?
There's not much difference at all, to be honest with you.
The feel of it. But he had like a year's experience also in a decent-ish league. He had a similar style of how he wanted to manage and come in terms of his integration into the club. So sometimes I think that might be a typical example of sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And Enzo was great. It helped as well that Enzo could do it out of the spotlight in the Championship. And it's a very different type of football, way more enjoyable football actually at times for me in the Championship, and you can really kind of harness and practice that philosophy with a lower standard of opposition. I think that massively helped Enzo. So I don't know. Ruud frustrates me because, like I said, he's dried up our goals, and that's what we had this first part of the season. That was what was getting us points, and I'm not sure why he's keeps hammering at the door of trying to keep clean sheets or being cautious or playing around the back when you've got Wout Faes and Yannick Vestergaard in those positions, because it's too much of a car crash potentially all the time to give that particular back line so much of the possession. It's too risky. And I'd just rather, look at Forest's goal yesterday. How direct was that? Like playing straight across to the winger, he's bombing
Quality.
on. Like that we could play that. So we have the personnel to do that type of football. So it's just one of those, isn't it? It's the roll of the dice. But I know how it can look an emotional appointment as well. So who's to say it wasn't? We might have even wanted Corberon, but when Corberon gets appointed as Valencia coach 3 weeks after Ruud, to me, the wheels were already in motion for that Valencia appointment. So he's not going to come to Leicester, because that's how it works. So we don't know always what goes on, but Ruud, I would like to see Ruud learn a bit from his mistakes, but Enzo never did. Enzo kept plugging away at the same stuff because that's what he believed in, and that's what a lot of these managers do. And it's done him well, it's served him well, but Chelsea fans are becoming frustrated with the same thing now. It's hard, isn't it? Modern management is hard. So the modern appointment of managers and getting access to them to interview them and get the ducks in a row at the right time about leaving jobs and making jobs and everything else. The weirdest thing about Ruud was he didn't bring a team with him. And I still don't think he really knows what his coaching staff properly looks like. We obviously had the coaches get sacked a couple of weeks ago, which is odd. Does he know what he needs to really truly perform to his philosophy? I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, I want to talk. We'll come back to this in a second because I want to talk about what is next for Ruud. But Rich, I know that you had a few things to say, mate. Obviously about what Graham was saying, with regards to the criticism towards Top and January spending, youth players, and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with 99% of stuff that Graham says every time he's been on.
Sorry, what?
Graham, if you go back and watch the streams I've been on, I've always been a staunch advocate of not over criticizing and not going into harsh. I'm a huge advocate for Top. I've always respected him, and
all three of you are. All three of you are.
Yeah. However, just to play devil's advocate, what I will say is that I don't think that you can, because of the circumstances, he is free from any criticism. Like, I agree with you. It's horrendous that he had to take the club on under the circumstances he has, but that doesn't make him right for the job. Now, I still think he's right for the job, but my point is that I still think that criticism is allowed. Now, there has been some criticism, which I think when it's aimed at that he doesn't care. Stuff like that is just shut up. That's ridiculous. Like, he does care. However, I still think that there has been a large a large catalogue of errors, and he is ultimately responsible. However, so just to sort of play devil's advocate, I don't think that he is free from criticism and that he's got this shield around him just because he got the club under such horrible circumstances. But I do agree with you. He doesn't, he's doing the best he can, I think, in the situation he's got. Regarding the transfer window, I do disagree on that only because of all the stuff I've read in regards to from people that are in the know in regards to Rob Tanner, I've got all these names that are eluding me now, but all these people, Percy, thank you, and also the things he was saying. Now, if I started in that role and was told you're going to have around about 5 million to spend, okay, I know I've got that, and I take that job knowing that. When people are asking me about, the transfer window's coming up, and I'm going to be downplaying it. Oh, well, we've not really got, to be honest with you, there's not really going to be much activity. So, don't expect it, because then you set those expectations. What he was doing was the complete opposite. He was very much leading it down the line of, I've got, I'm very, he was wording it very cleverly, but essentially saying, I know how much there is to spend, and there are areas we want to strengthen. Now, the devil's advocate to my devil's advocate could be, well, maybe he was just doing that to try and get the board to listen, so that, to spend more money. But I just don't think that was the case based on the what the people in the know have been saying. And then finally, in regards to the youth, I said, obviously, when I said about putting the youth on, well, they wouldn't get booed. And then I went, well, probably our fan base would. My thing to it is that if you listen to the likes of like Matt Piper as an example, who, when they talked about putting the youth on, he said it was his favourite time. Like when things were going bad, he loved going on, because what does it matter? Like, you can't be any worse than the people that are out there. And in regards to tackling, who's tackling now? Samari pulled out of a tackle in West Ham, and I cannot for the life of me get over that. That for me is a benchable offence immediately. I'd have pulled him off straight away. I would have immediately, when I saw that, gone, right, get him off, because he's my defensive midfielder. He should be throwing himself into that tackle, and he pulled out. So if that, I play Sunday League. I'm not at the moment because I'm very injured. I tell you now, if any one of my central, when I play there, I go in for every tackle. If any one of my, players did that, I would lose my mind at them, and I would be, that'd be it. You're off. Like, we're rolling sub. You take in 10 minutes. So it's just that for me it's a bit of a non-starter argument if they're not going to put tackles in and they're not physically ready. Give them a chance, see what happens, because they cannot do any worse than the players that are at the moment. And if anything, it's giving the likes of Samari a bit of an. I made the point a few weeks ago, and I know Manny sort of made a bit of a joke about it, but I said I can't believe Samari's been here 3 years, 5 years, however long he's been here, and he doesn't know English yet. He still does all his interviews in French. So that for me is actually a bit of an insight into his mentality, because to me what that tells me is he's got no real intention of staying here. He doesn't think he's going to be here long term, so why learn the language? So that puts in for me again about commitment. And I know that's a leap, but if we sort of brought up Harry Kane. All these are the players that are going abroad, and they're learning the language. And so for me, the likes of Samari need dropping because his effort just isn't there. And I know he has these odd games where he suddenly pulls out worldies, but it's not good enough, because he's one that I would level the accusation of effort. There's very few of them that I would. I actually think that they're just not good enough. But Samari, I think his effort is not there. So put someone in who's younger, who's going to go for it, who's going to give it. If we had Hamza in, I'd say, right, let's get Hamza on, because he will give you everything. So, like I say, Graham, I agree with 99% of the things you say. The only point out of all of the only things that you said there that I disagreed with realistically was I think Ruud was promised more than he was given. And I also think that let's give the youth a try because they can't do any worse. But like I say, a lot of that was devil's advocate.
Just to clarify one thing, because I think what Graham was saying, Rich, about the tackles, I think he was saying that because the two youngsters that everyone's talking about at the moment are Jake Evans and Jerry Monga. I think what Graham was saying was the opposition they face in the under 21s barely put in a tackle.
Oh, with you. Sorry, apologies.
I saw that interview. Well, I saw the podcast with Matt Piper where he said that. Where he said, he when he used to come off the bench when the team was doing badly, it was kind of like no pressure because he wasn't going to make the team any worse. All he could do really was improve it. So, right, this is what I wanted to come back to you guys about Ruud van Nistelrooy. So, Kate, you mentioned about how he didn't bring any staff in. They've now sacked the two managers. To me, it feels very much like the whole club are preparing for life under Ruud from the summer onwards. So, I've said many times, I think it's naive to think that come the summer, the fans are going to be backing Ruud, wanting Ruud still in charge. If we keep losing every week and we get relegated, I think it's going to be extremely toxic. And I think the club might have no option but to make a change. But it does look and feel like it will be Ruud next season in the Championship. Because I think that's why they've maybe not really rushed through any staff changes and things like that, because they'll probably sort it all out in the summer.
Yeah, I don't really know what the question was there.
Well, the question, the question is, I suppose, what do we do with Ruud? Do you think we should keep him, from now, obviously, to the end of the season and beyond in the summer as well, or do you think if we get relegated, maybe a fresh manager at the top might be needed?
It depends what the plan is. If Ruud wants to stay for a Championship season or two or whatever, if he wants to manage a team in the Championship, then it's something I think we have to entertain, because there's a few points around this. So when we got relegated, and I thought about this the other day, Susan Whelan came out and said, this isn't going to be an overnight fix. It's going to be some painful years ahead. The frustrating thing is she's never picked up on that point ever since. It's just kind of gone really quiet again, and no one said a word and put their head above the parapet. And that's frustrating. But she's not wrong either, that it's going to be a painful few seasons to wash away those horrendous PSR years. And that does come at a price. And I think it's going to come at a price of potentially our Premier League place. And I say potentially because I'm with Rich and Graham, and I think that the squad weren't good enough anyway. I know we had a terrible summer of transfers that seemed very mixed and very contradictory to the type of football we're trying to play. But there was stuff in mind of, we've got to have some pain today to get some gain in a couple of years and get some traction again to rebuild the project, because that's what a proper rebuild is dismantling brick by brick to then rebuild again. And it is painful and it's shit and it's frustrating. And there's always, what if this, or why didn't you do that? So if we are to keep Rude and a lot of what his philosophy, the whole club are on board with, but there's just going to be a real sting in the tail at the minute, then I think that's what, that I'm behind that, because hopefully he'll have a better summer this summer, because we've not spent anything. So hopefully that last horrible PSR year will wash off, that £92 million loss. The £89 million one has gone, because we didn't get done for it this year. Again, that's not given enough kudos and credit to people because of that. I know it's painful and you think, oh my God, we've put some rubbish in the squad, or we've not got what we wanted, but we've had to wash away, because those Wolves are at the door with PSR. They are looking at Leicester City. It's unfairly, I feel, the spotlight is on little old Leicester all the flipping time. But that's how it is at the moment. So if this is the plan, then great, to a degree. But like I said, what bothers me is that Rude's not scoring and not playing attacking football enough. But maybe that's because he's given up the ghost. I don't know, because it was always going to be an upward battle and an uphill challenge, and it's just horrible watching somebody push water uphill. And I feel like that's what we're watching with playing football. So if that's the plan, to do a proper rebuild by dismantling gradually what we've had, then there needs to be communication to us fans, doesn't there? Which I think you can't just have Susan say in 2023 it's going to take a few years and then we don't hear from her for a few years. That's not how, I don't think, PR and communication works when you've got a loyal fan base and people just are noticing such a drastic change in what's happened from the previous 5 years. I just think there needs to be a bit more communication about it, to get fans on board, because it was always going to be painful. You can't get away with those losses and expect to just keep spending. I think there's an argument that you can do, and we should have perhaps spent in January to give it a really good go. But if the players weren't available with what Rude wanted, then he's probably just happy to say, do you know what, I'll be here in the summer and we'll go again then.
Graham, you've said that you think it was the wrong decision to appoint Ruud van Nistelrooy back in November, December. What do you think would be the right decision from here on out? Do you think we should stick with him in the summer and go again in the Championship, or do you think we should make a change?
I think we should keep him for the rest of the season. I also think that part of my complaint was, and I know you're going to not like this, but they got rid of Cooper too soon because he was feeling the fan pressure. Couple of points before I'll go to the Rude thing is, one is that where I feel sorry for Top is, I remember, I know it's hard to feel sorry for a multimillionaire who gets to play polo, which I can't do because I can't afford it. I remember him standing probably the first home game after his dad died, and he's standing there completely alone, standing in front of his seat as he normally does, bowing to everybody, tears in his eyes, looking up at his father on this big screen. And it was very emotional for everybody. But my father had been dead for 10 years. And at that point, I really would have liked to just walked over and said, look, whatever you're going to do next, don't just do it because you think that's what your dad wanted to do, or don't just do it to prove to your dad that I can do it. And he won the FA Cup. He has nothing to prove to anybody now. And one of my big worries is he will step away. It might be useful for him at this point in time to bring in another director, somebody to invest in the club that takes some of that pressure and move it up. Nobody's going to spend $500 million, billion or whatever is on the club with all the debt. So there has to be some change. within that. Two very quick, because I know we're nearly going to finish, but scoreboard pressure. We need to put some scoreboard pressure on Wolves, especially. At the moment, they just go, well, Leicester are going to turn up and they're going to lose, and we get a point against Everton and everything's brilliant. I think, getting to your Samari point, is the whole team's lightweight. It's like there are bunch of powder puffs the season we got relegated, and they're doing the same thing this season. Is they're wandering around. Can you imagine? You come against Everton, you come against West Ham or whatever. Those goals against West Ham were sheer bullying us off the ball. I know everybody wants to say that it was defenders' fault or whatever, but their presence in our box was pretty serious. So we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, Ruud might be doing a really good job. He might be moving the club the way that the owner and the Rudkin and whatever. And again, I think Rudkin could do with, he's been the club since 1984. There needs to be a reset there. Don't sack the bloke because but bring somebody in, or maybe he wants to move upstairs, or maybe he wants to retire. To Sue Wellens' point, I've worked for Sue Wellens, and she is one of the best, on National Women's Day. She run a £1 billion business in Thailand for Vishai. She comes over here entrusted with the club. She is as near as family to those people as you could, and she's no pushover. So if you find me defending these people a lot, it's because maybe I can see both sides. But yeah, if Ruud has got a plan that this summer can make things work, great. The one thing, again, we're going to talk about Voldemort, but Cooper did at the beginning of the season. We sent a lot of younger players off to get game time. We could have, to the point with the younger players, quite a good squad in the Champions next year. Heaven forbid that we end up there. And secondly, mate, play the youngsters, but really play them when, this is going to sound horrible again, when it's mathematically impossible for us to stay up. Then you take the pressure off them, and we can build for next season. But we're going to stay up.
Wow, we're going to stay up. Rich, mate. I mean, final question for you, mate, about Ruud. I mean, what would you do? Do you think it's the smart thing to do just to keep him in place? For next season, because of course, you never know, he might quit. I can't see it. I think he'd rather the sack, as many managers do these days, so they get the big payoff. But what do you think we should do with Ruud?
I think it's excuse me, I think it's an impossible question, to be honest with you, but I'm going to answer this based on the fact I don't want to be a Watford. So I think keep him, as in, definitely I agree with Graham. Let's at least wait to the end of the season, see how things go, see how we feel, and then if let's say doesn't get as toxic as it could do, it's still bad, but it could get worse. Then let's see, give him a summer to spend. As you say, every manager has been backed apart from him so far. So see what he can do. I don't want to be another Watford. I was actually one of the very few people that agreed, not eventually as long as it was, but with Brendan, I liked the fact we stuck with him for a while, because I thought that showed to other managers that we give you time to rectify the issues, because no one wants to be a Watford, no one wants to join a Watford unless it's a big payday, and then they're the type of managers that I don't want a mercenary manager. So there was don't get me wrong, we did keep him too long in the end, but I agreed with keeping him for longer than a lot of other clubs would, because I thought that shows that we are a club that gives you time to implement. So based on that, I'd say keep him, but my honest thought is I don't think he'll last that long.
Yeah, I'm thinking that as well, mate. Okay, so very quickly back to Chelsea. We've already discussed it. We all, a couple of you have said, well, we could get something, but Kate, score prediction. Give me a score prediction for the Chelsea game later today.
Why are you making me go first?
International Women's Day. You go first.
I really don't know the answer to this, because it's just so Leicester, isn't it, that we get something. I'm going to be the ever optimist. I'm going to say 1-1.
1-1. Okay. Graham, what are you saying?
Well, I was going to go 1-1 with Kate, but I've also got to quickly say about Chelsea fans is I know Manny loves the chess football and all that sort of thing and all that. And, I love Manny, so how can I criticise him? But Chelsea fans are really bored with it. They do seem to think that a bit of a second half of the season is that Chelsea will score a goal and then they'll sit around and wait for the other team to equalise. So I'm going to go, sorry, Kate, I'm going to go 1-1 with Kate.
Okay. Rich, what score prediction are you going with, mate?
I'm gonna go off the back of that fantastic article that Kate wrote in the BBC. The goals are dried up. We're not going to score. So especially against the defensive low, they've got Fofana back as well. So I think I'm going to go 3-0 Chelsea. Sorry. Which it pains me to say out loud, but I think Cole Palmer's going to he's going to have an absolute field day against our fullbacks. So
well, you know what Leicester are like when players are out of form. They play Leicester and
exactly
they play themselves into form. Yeah, and
obviously
Cole Palmer's, Cole Palmer's not having the best of times at the moment, but you could definitely see that happening. Everybody in the chat, quickly get your score predictions in. I'm going to go for a 2-0 loss. Not quite as bad as Rich, but I can't see us winning today, to be honest.
Vardy's going to send Fofana back to the stick ward, I think, as well.
Yeah, he's back.
We need a Vardy tackle in there.
See you later, mate.
Yeah. Tommy K is a Nottingham Forest fan who watches us every week, so thanks, Tommy. Chelsea 4, Leicester 0. Caden says 1-1 as well. John is saying 3-1 to Leicester, European push. Chester easy 4-0 Chelsea. Palmer back to his best. 1-1 says Felix. Andreas said 5-0 Chelsea. And I think, I want what Wolf is smoking this morning. 7-0 Leicester. There we go. Remember, everybody, as well, we will be live at 1:40 p.m. For the match day live. So we'll be live basically from 20 minutes before kickoff all the way until about an hour after the game is finished. So join us for that one. Kate, it's unusual. You're normally at the away games. Are you just going to sit back with your feet up and watching it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I had a hen do yesterday and I really wasn't sure what today was going to bring. So I decided to sit it out. So yeah, I'm going to watch it on TV with a roast dinner that I've decided to cook. So yeah, come on.
Rich, Graham, I mean, nice to have you both back on the channel after a while. But you just watching it at home? What are you doing? What are you two doing?
Well, I'm going to be sitting in a Belgian bar in a really hot country, drinking Hogarth and eating mussels. So what can I say? It's a really tough gig and I really apologise to everybody else, but my heart will be feeling the same way as everybody else sitting at home or making that journey down the Fulham Road.
There we go. Rich?
I'm watching from home, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but no, I feel for all the fans that are travelling. Like, absolutely hats off to you. So I feel for them, to be honest, today.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Thank you to everybody who's joined us in the comment section this morning. Make sure to hit the like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Like I said, we'll see you at 1:40 and see you then. Cheers all. Bye-bye.